Hi everyone, and Happy New Year! I'm so excited that I get to be here with all of you today as we celebrate such a special day, the beginning of a new year. I love the start of a new year because it gives us something to push ourselves for, to try something new, to create a new habit, challenge ourselves. So hopefully during today's lecture, this will inspire some reflection for you as we enter this new chapter of our lives. Today we're going to be talking about Spiritism as a message of liberation. But what does liberation mean? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, liberation is defined as an occasion when something or someone is released or made free. So when we're talking about Spiritism as a message of liberation, what we mean is that the teachings of Spiritism have the power to free us from the hardships and the challenges that we face by providing us comfort and strength. It empowers us to understand our spiritual nature, overcome our ignorance, and take responsibility for our own personal growth and evolution. This does not mean that by studying Spiritism, it's going to get rid of all of our struggles, but it's going to give us the tools that we need to better face these obstacles that come up in our lives. So there's many different religions and resources available to all of us with the hopes of enlightening us to be better and overcome the challenges we face in our lives. So why is it that we're saying specifically Spiritism is this message of liberation? Chapter 5 of the Gospel According to Spiritism discusses how the concepts Spiritism talks about are not modern inventions. These concepts that Spiritism bring have been around since the beginning of time. When we talk about spirits, when we talk about reincarnation that we're going to talk about today, this does not mean that just because Spiritism came into existence that now there are spirits. No, there's always been spirits. There's always been this idea of spirits and reincarnation throughout the Earth's history. But what Spiritism did was better define these terms for us and name these concepts so that we can better and more accurately study it. We know that Moses brought to us the 10 Commandments and the law of the Old Testament. When Jesus came to earth, he didn't go against those teachings that Moses had brought, but he expanded their depth in relation to how evolved the people were at the time. And so the Gospel According to Spiritism states that Spiritism is the third revelation of God's law. The Gospel According to Spiritism says, Spiritism says, we have not come to destroy the Christian law, but to carry it out. It teaches nothing contrary to what was taught by Christ. Rather, it develops it, explains it in a manner that can be understood by all, and completes that which had previously been known only in allegorical form. So, the Gospel According to Spiritism is saying right here that Spiritism did not come to invent something new or get new ideas, but just further elaborate on these teachings that have already been brought to us by Jesus and we've had this unconscious knowledge of throughout history. In each of these revelations, we can see that the teachings really corresponded with the needs and knowledge of the people at the time. So at the time of Moses, they needed simplicity and straightforward rules. So Moses laid it out very simple rules for them to start off with, and us really, right? We don't know if we were there at that time. At the time of Jesus, the examples and stories that he gave really related and resonated with the people at that time, and that was the best way for them to expand their knowledge by relating it back to their daily living in the form of stories. And in today's day and age, people seek facts, they seek proof, they seek science. And that is what makes Spiritism so special to us, and one of the reasons why it has this power to liberate us. The Gospel According to Spiritism describes Spiritism as the new science which has come to reveal to mankind, by means of irrefutable proofs, the existence and nature of the spirit world and its relation to the physical world. So Spiritism, having this unique aspect of developing on the teachings of Jesus while also bringing us that proof and that science, is really what allows us to better understand and have faith in this divine universe that we're a part of. So it's not that Spiritism is bringing new things or inventing anything that doesn't already exist. It is just bringing this information to light and helping us understand and define these concepts. So why is Spiritism this message of liberation? What does it say? What can help liberate us? And there's so many important teachings that Spiritism brings that we could dive into, and we could be here for a long time talking about. But the one topic that I would really like to dive into today is the concept of reincarnation. To me, this concept is so liberating. And I believe many people will find the same, because when we understand this notion of reincarnation, this justice in reincarnation, this allows us to understand so many complexities that happen in our everyday lives. Approximately 20% of the world's population believes in reincarnation. This means that the majority of people don't believe for one reason or another. Maybe they have never even had exposure to the concept of reincarnation. Maybe they have had exposure, but they still don't really understand what it means and how it applies to their life. And maybe some people know about it, but they don't really want to believe it yet. That's just not for them. And that's okay. We cannot and we don't want to force anyone to believe in certain concepts. And everyone comes to understandings in their own time. But we need to understand that when people don't have this concept of reincarnation, and we are thinking about that concept, they might have a lot of looming questions about life that really troubles them because they can't find an explanation for it. They can't understand because they're not looking at it from this point of view of reincarnation. So it's really important that we understand that side of view, that some people don't have that understanding, and that's okay, but that helps us understand where they're coming from with some of their doubts and questions. Such as, why do people develop such different aptitudes even with the same education, right? Some people go through the exact same upbringing, the exact same education, but they end up in very different places. How come? Why do some children showcase extreme intelligence at an early age, while others do not? Why do some children show inclination towards vices, while others do not? Why is it that some people are more advanced than others? Why do some people seem to be dealt a better hand in the game of life? Why are there civilized and uncivilized people? Why do unfortunate circumstances happen to, it seems, only certain people? And this list can go on and on and on of questions that seem so unjust and don't have an explanation. Another big question for people who don't believe in reincarnation is, what happens to us after death? Death can be a really scary thought, even for us spiritists that are certain in a life after death. It is scary to think of the death of this corporeal existence that we're in. Death is a great unknown for people. And even those people who do believe that there's something after death, they don't know what that means. They don't know what that's going to be like. So it's a big unknown, and it's scary for all of us. Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Will we be working? Will we be resting? Will we see our loved ones? Will there be nothing? There's so many questions that people don't have the answers to that really loom on them and cause a lot of frustration. There's a question in the Spirits book, question 958, that says, why are human beings instinctively horrified of nothingness? And the Spirits answered, because there is no such thing as nothingness. I love the simplicity of this question, but at the same time, the depth of it. No matter who you are, we're all scared of nothingness after death. But this comes from our subconscious knowledge that there can't be nothingness, right? There has to be something more. So you find that even people who don't follow a specific religion or belief set, and they don't want to name, categorize their beliefs, they have this notion that there has to be something else out there. This can't be it. So we have that subconscious knowledge that there can't be nothingness. And that's why we're so afraid, because what if it is nothing, right? If we don't have a better understanding, we might be scared that there is nothing after this. And when we doubt this existence of a future life, we direct all our thoughts to the earthly existence and this present moment. So when we do this, the things in our lives, a mistake, a deceit, an unsatisfied ambition, an injustice, a conflict, etc., all of these negative things that happen in our lives, they turn into agonizing torture, right? We start thinking about them so much. They seem like it's the biggest deal. It seems like it's the end of the world, these small things that happen, because we're only looking at the here and now. We're looking at the earthly view of things and placing ourselves in the center of it, right? Sometimes we've had of, why is this me? Why does everything happen to me, right? We have these concepts when we get really frustrated, but if you don't have any concept of a future life, that's all you see. All you see is what's happening right here, right now, in my bubble, in my world, and you don't have that wider view. It's almost as if we're walking around a big city and all of these skyscrapers are popping up, and they're symbolizing the events in our lives, good and bad. And when you're walking as a person in a big city, that can be overwhelming, right? Seeing all of these buildings, all of these things that represent all the events in your life is very overwhelming. But with the knowledge of reincarnation that Spiritism brings us, this entire point of view changes. Now, instead of being a small person walking in a big city, now with the view of reincarnation, we're looking from a mountaintop. We're to the side on a mountaintop looking down at that city. It's not that our challenges, our city of challenges have gone away or changed in size, but now we're liberated to see that as a small stepping stone in our journey. Suddenly now with this perspective, all of these major tribulations that are happening in our lives, they're mere incidents that we now have the confidence to overcome. So now we see these things from a different perspective, and that big problem that I have, it doesn't look that big from over here. It doesn't look that challenging. I have the courage to go face that now, because instead of looking at a huge skyscraper of an issue, now I'm looking from afar and it looks like a little tiny ant. And we have more confidence to take on that challenge. That doesn't mean that the challenge changed at all. It's the same, but it's the perspective that we're looking at it. This moment to take a step back and reflect from a new perspective allows us to have a better understanding of what we're going through and why, and that helps us to feel hope again and not be as bitter about the situations we're going through. With such an unshakable faith in the future life, even the concept of death is no longer fearful, because we understand that it's not the end and life goes on. When we look at life through this point of view, it's just like the stars in space. We suddenly lose ourselves in the immensity of it all. Suddenly, instead of looking at just this earthly life that revolves around us and all of the issues and things that are going on in our lives, instead we're seeing that we're just a small part of this grand life that is our universe. Some people say that from this point of view, then what do I matter? I'm just a drop in the ocean. It doesn't matter what I do or what I don't do because there's so much other stuff out there. But this is the exact opposite. This immensity is not to be taken as a lack of importance. It's the opposite. How lucky and important are each of us to have an intent and a purpose in life as part of this grand universe. Even if we might not know exactly what it is, we all have the purpose for being exactly where we are right now. And there's something magical to that, right? Like the stars in the universe. This grandness is not to make us feel small, but to make us feel important of, wow, with all of this happening in the world, there's our existence and our purpose for being here. And this vastness and immensity helps us understand that the challenges we face right now will soon be a small, vague memory that helped us grow along the way. And in the spirit of the new year, let's all take a moment to reflect on 2024. First of all, let's look back and say, how fast did that year go, right? I'm looking back and saying, wow, that year flew by. 2024 was a blink of an eye. But now let's think about a really difficult moment that we had this past year. I'm sure we can all think of something that was really challenging for us in 2024. And how did you overcome that challenge? What did it take to overcome that? And now think about, how long did we have to endure that challenge for? Was that months, weeks, most of the year, the entire year? So it's interesting to reflect on this because at that time, that challenge felt like it was never going to end, that it was just going and going and going, and we were stuck in the middle of this challenge. But when we are here now in 2025, reflecting back, doesn't that year seem like it went so fast? We might find ourselves thinking, wow, maybe that challenge wasn't that bad after all. Or maybe the challenge was really bad, and that's fair too. Maybe that was really bad and we did really struggle, but wow, look at us and where we are now. That went really fast. And this is just us reflecting on 1 year. Imagine as we're reflecting on 2 years, on 3 years, on 10 years, on our entire lifetime, and then in the big picture of eternity. When we take this step back in this immensity, again, it's not to bring insignificance to that of one event that happened or this 1 year, 2024. But when we look at our entire existence, this is a second of time. Our entire existence is, our entire life right now on earth is a minute of our time of eternity. So when we look at it, this bigger picture, suddenly those challenges that we're facing are not the end of the world. They're just a stepping stone. And this is the liberation that Spiritism brings us through the concept of reincarnation. Understanding reincarnation, we can liberate ourselves to have this different perspective, this broader perspective that brings us comfort and allows us to tackle these challenges one by one. But why? Why do we reincarnate? And this is a great question that Allan Kardec did pose to the spirits in question 132 of the Spirits books. And the Spirits answered exactly by telling us that God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. For some, it's an expiation, and for others, a mission. However, in order to reach this perfection, they must undergo all the vicissitudes or misfortune of corporeal existence. Therein lies their expiation. So each incarnation for us has a specific purpose. We might be going through an expiation or a test, a new challenge that we have to overcome. We might be going through an atonement, making up for a mistake that we just previously did, maybe in this life or in previous ones. Or it could even be a mission to help a specific cause and also grow along the way. Or a combination, a mix of all of these happening. So we might not know in this life exactly what we're here to do, what our purpose is, but we can all be certain that there is a specific, exact reason for us to be exactly where we are right now. Sometimes we feel so frustrated as we're, starting a new year, we're looking ahead saying, wow, I can't believe I'm only right here. But maybe there's a really specific reason for us to be exactly where we are. And not maybe, there is. There's a reason for us to be going through at this exact moment, this exact job, this exact family and relationships. We're all here for a reason. And throughout all of these innumerable incarnations that we're going to have, our overall goal is to reach perfection. And a really interesting point on this note that the spirits mention in their response is that in order to reach this perfection, we will all, at some point, we must go through all the trials of life. So while my challenges right now may look very different than the challenges you're having right now, at some point, you might have already gone through my challenges, the challenges that I'm going through, or you will in the future, and vice versa. The order and the path we take is each up to us and our own individuality. But in our time, we will each have experienced and overcome all of life's challenges. So that sounds like a pretty big task to do, to overcome all of life's challenges. So of course, we can't become perfect and accomplish all of us in one corporeal existence. And here, that's the answer. That's where reincarnation is needed, because it's infinite chances for us to try and try again, slowly but surely improving ourselves each step of the way. We even see this concept explained by Jesus when he says, I say to you, if a man is not born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And it's really interesting again, right? Bringing back that Spiritism is not inventing these concepts. It's just giving further definition and clarity to these concepts. So Jesus brought this in a form that the people of the time could understand. But now when we reflect on what Jesus is saying, he's saying exactly that, right? That we need to be born again to see the kingdom of God or to reach that level of perfection. Because we need multiple tries to get better and better each time, right? Jesus knew, we're not going to be perfect just right now. We need to be born again and try again and again so that we can slowly reach that level of perfection. But it is guaranteed that we all will get there one day. So the Spirit book brings us a story of two manufacturers. Each of these manufacturers had a worker who aspired to partnership, but on one particular day, both of the workers were pretty unproductive and honestly, they deserved to be fired. I'm sure we can all resonate that there's some days at work that just don't seem to be as productive as we hoped. And so one of the manufacturers actually fired his worker, despised the pleas. And because of that, that worker was never able to obtain a good employment again, and he ended up dying in poverty. The other, however, said to the worker, you wasted my entire day, so you owe me this compensation. You performed badly, so you owe me the reparation. But I'll let you start again tomorrow. And if you perform well, I'll keep you and you'll continue towards your goal. So we see this quick story, and pretty quickly we can think, which of these was more humane? It's very obvious to see which was the better course. And this is just a story talking about two people, imperfect people. But now if we think about this in the concept of God, the supreme just and goodness, how would God not give us all a second and multiple chances to correct ourselves? This is the justice of reincarnation. It wouldn't be consistent with God's goodness to punish us forever. Out of divine justice, God permits us to accomplish in new existences whatever we couldn't complete in this previous trial. So it's the divine justice, the goodness of God that allows us these infinite tries to try again until we get it right, until we improve ourselves and we're able to do better. The doctrine of reincarnation is the one that is in line with the idea of God's justice concerning those of a moral condition, because it's the only one that can explain our future and give us hope, because it gives us the promise of atoning for our errors, for our mistakes in new trials. So, right, some people feel very defeated if they make one mistake or one error and think, I'll never be able to recover for this. I'll never be able to make it up in this lifetime. Or let's say someone, is near death of this corporeal life and they have no time to make up for it. So they feel very defeated. But when we look at it through the lens of reincarnation, knowing of the future life, we have more time. And that also means that it's never too late to start right now. And we have time to get started so that in our next life, we can keep going and pick up where we left off. Those who are aware of how imperfect they are, which is all of us here on earth, this gives us a consoling hope in this doctrine of reincarnation. I'm sure we can all think of something that we're not that good at right now. Something that we really don't like to do, or we really can't do it as much as we try. Even something pretty simple. For me, for example, a simple example is art. I try, but art is not my forte. It's hard for me to be creative and build a beautiful masterpiece. So if I thought that to reach perfection and to enter the kingdom of God, I needed to completely be perfect and artistic, that would be really challenging and that would be defeating for me, because I would think, I'm never going to get good at art right now. So as much as I try, I'm not going to get to perfection. So I would almost give up. I would give up because that seems so impossible and so out of reach that why even bother? But when we think of reincarnation, and I think that I have more time to address this, I think, okay, yeah, that's possible. Right now, I'm not that good at art, but slowly and surely, I'll go improving myself and get better and better. And one day, I will get there. And that gives us hope. That gives us reassurance that it's okay that there's things that we're not great at right now, that we're not perfect in. We know that. God knows that. Jesus knows that. We are not perfect yet. So there are things that we're not good at. But we have that hope that if we keep trying, we will continue to get better and better and better until one day we do reach that perfection. And this here is a simple example, but we can also reflect on perfecting virtues, such as forgiveness, selflessness, humility. When we think of perfecting those things in one incarnation, that seems very challenging, daunting, and pretty much impossible to completely perfect it. So luckily, we have eternity to keep working on improving ourselves. And that gives me hope, at least. On the other hand, let's take a moment to think of something that we're really good at. Maybe it's something that we mastered in this incarnation, or maybe it's something that you felt always has come so naturally to you. That is something that you already accomplished in our reincarnations, and we will continue to take wherever we go. It might not be relevant all the time, but it is there with us. So maybe in this incarnation, you don't need to demonstrate your skills in medicine. But if you have already mastered that skill, you have it with you. And it might not be relevant right now in your incarnation, so it's more dormant in your subconscious, but it will come out as needed because you have that. You don't lose the things that you have learned and perfected. And it's just like what they say about riding a bike, right? Once you ride a bike, you'll never forget how. Even if it's been years, you can get a bike and you'll be able to jump on and ride that bike. So it's just like that with all of our accomplishments thus far. We have that. Once we've accomplished it and we've truly perfected it, we have that with us and we'll carry that with us going forward. And as we go forward, then we'll learn new things. So while I might have perfected something, you might have perfected another, and we'll be working on perfecting the other things along the way. So it's a journey that each of us is on individually. A big example of this that we see is child prodigies. So we see countless stories of young children who know how to play an instrument so professionally or have extreme knowledge of a topic. Without the concept of reincarnation, this can seem pretty unfair, right? How come some children are just born with this extreme intelligence? But with reincarnation, when we're looking at it through this lens of reincarnation, we see that this skill is coming from past experience. And while some of those skills come out very prevalently, like children prodigies that start playing an instrument or have extreme knowledge, we too have skills that we have acquired, that we do have with us. It just might not be as obvious, but there are already things that we accomplish and we take with us in our lives. So let's imagine that we bring together thousands of people from age 0 to 100. If we didn't have the concept or the notion of age, we might wonder why and how everyone's different. Why are there some people who are tall when others are short? Some are more artistic and others are not. Some can speak more fluently while others cannot. Some are struggling to walk while others can't. Some have more intelligence, and so on and so forth. But then when we bring in the notion of age, we would understand that everyone is at a different stage of life. Everyone has learned different things and has had different strengths and weaknesses, and we're all going through our journey. So when we look at everyone equally, everyone from age 0 to 100 equally, it says, wow, some of these people are so different. How come? But when we take that step back and we consider their existence, we see, oh, well, they've had different experiences, and this is why they are at this stage in their lives and why they're different from the others. But if we take a step back even further, we see this even with newborn babies, all born on the exact same day. When we're looking through the lens of reincarnation, what seems that they would all be equal, all be the same, when we look at it with the lens of these future lives, we understand that these newborn babies, all the same age, have past experiences that they're bringing with them as well. Some of them might have had more incarnations than others. Some might be further along in their journey than others. That does not mean that they are better or worse. They're just at different stages of their journey. And that's okay. We all are. We're all on different stages of our journey. And we don't know. We don't know who's further along, less far. Maybe I'm further along in this area and you're on that area. So it's not about comparing who's further along, but everyone focusing on their own individual journey and what we have to improve and work on. And this is the justice of reincarnation, that we are all doing what we need to do to better ourselves in our individual journeys. Spiritism shows us that every effect has a cause. And the Spirit book says, therefore, as an effect is always preceded by a cause, if that cause is not found in the present life, then it must follow that it must come from before this. That is to say, a preceding life. So suddenly, things that seem so unfair, such as the death of children, people being born with disabilities, tragic misfortunes, natural disasters, being born in varying conditions, and more, now has an explanation. We might not know what that cause was, but we can be certain that there's a reason behind everything that each of us goes through. And it might not have been from this life. So from this life perspective, it looks very unfair, very unjust. But if we were able to take that look back into our past existences, we would see that exact reason of why it is that we're going through the challenges we have right now. Of course, though, it's important to remember that this doesn't mean that we should look at other people and ignore their hardships. We can't say, oh, there's a reason you must be going through that, so that's fine, good luck. No, as individuals, we all have to continue to show our love and kindness. And we can't judge others and try and figure out what issue they had in their life, because we all have our own imperfections that we're working on. But when we are going through those issues ourselves, we can reflect back. When we say, oh, why is this happening to me? We can realize that, okay, maybe it's something I did right now in this incarnation. Maybe not. Maybe it was from my last incarnation or a few incarnations ago, and I'm still trying to learn this new virtue or make up for a mistake that I made. There's some reason that we're going through these challenges. So let's try and use that to comfort us and realize, okay, there's a reason I need to go through this. What do I need to overcome? How can I get through this? And we must remember the importance and the important difference between equality and equity. Equality is about everyone having the exact same thing, the exact same experience. But equity is about everyone having what they need according to their necessities, which is different for everyone. So when we talk about the plurality of existences, talking about reincarnation, past and future lives, we've realized that this inequality that we see right now on Earth, this is actually equity. This is everyone having the situation that they need at that time. That doesn't mean they deserve to suffer. It means there's something for them to learn from in that situation. The same way that we have something to learn from the situation that we're in right now, the things that we go through. We're going through it because we specifically need to learn and grow from that situation. So what seems like inequality, because we're only thinking of the present and not the past, this is actually equity when we look at the past and everything that is our lives. And this is where Spiritism can liberate us. All of these inequalities and injustices of the world, suddenly they have a very clear explanation. We can now look at our lives from that top of the mountain view instead of down in the city. And we feel free and hopeful despite the challenges we face. So this is what I love and what feels so liberating to me is not that our challenges changed, right? It's still the same challenge. We're going through the same exact thing, but now changing this perspective, we suddenly look at it as much bigger than us. Right? There's a greater purpose for what we're going through. It's not just a punishment. It's not just because the world is unfair or unjust. It's because there's something that we can learn from this situation. And so what can we do to overcome this? What is it? Reflect, right? What is it that I need to learn from this situation? What is something in 2024 that maybe we didn't do so well and we need to learn from? How can we try and improve on that right now in 2025? But how many chances do we get to try again to prove ourselves? The Spirit Book comes to tell us in question 169 that there's no set number or limit on the number of incarnations we can have. There is also no minimum on the number we can have, but To reach perfection, we know that it's going to take, the spirits tell us, that it's going to take a large number of reincarnations. So no one is completing all of their trials and getting total perfection in 10, 20 incarnations. For everyone, it takes a very large number of incarnations to reach that phase of perfection, because we have to go through, like they mentioned, all of the trials and really overcome every obstacle in life. So it does take time. But the number of times that we incarnate in this very large number is completely up to us. If we work hard and we tackle our trials, we're going to advance more quickly and avoid repeating trials. It's totally okay for us to repeat trials, but the more we have to repeat it, the more we're going to know we're going to need some more incarnations to do that. For example, as I mentioned, art. For me, I know I'm going to need a few more incarnations to start getting good at art. But maybe if I dedicate myself to that right now, I'll be able to do better, and I'll skip a few of those incarnations because I've made more progress now. And that is just a small example, but that applies to everything in our lives. It's okay to take more time, but if we apply ourselves now and we can overcome that obstacle, then we might eliminate some repetition of trials. And if we don't want to do anything and we just want to rest in this life and then the next, then we have the free will to do that. But the trials are still going to be waiting for us. So we're only prolonging our journey. So it's totally up to us. We have that free will to sit here and relax this life. But then the next one, we're going to have to go through the same trials and try all over again. Spiritism tells us that all spirits were created simple and ignorant. This is how we often think of babies, right? At the very beginning of their life, they're all equal. As we previously discussed, this isn't actually true for babies, because while they all look like they're at the beginning of their lives, they all have these past existences that they're coming with, this past experience that really, while they might look all the same, they're coming with different backgrounds and different experiences. But when we think of a spirit at creation, then that is the concept of a clean slate and the same starting point. So we were all created simple and ignorant. We were all created at the same state. But from that moment forward, we have our free will. And through the different trials and tribulations of life that we go through, we're going to have different paths that we go down to, and we're going to learn things in different order. Of course, like we were saying before, we need to overcome all of life's obstacles and challenges to reach perfection, but there's no specific order we need to go in. That's totally up to us and our free will. And once we go down one path, we might start getting some consequences or natural things that happen along the way that we go down and start learning that path. We see many people who have a really great intelligence, but they lack on moral values. And we also see the opposite. We see some people who are so morally evolved, but they don't have a lot of extreme intelligence yet. In the end, we are going to need to perfect both of these areas, intelligence and morals. So it's not that one is better than the other. Both are going to need to continue to develop their intelligence and their morals and perfect both. They just went on different paths to begin. So we are all advancing. We're all in our individual journey, and that's okay. What I'm learning right now might be something that you already learned or something you're learning next, but it's not a comparison. It's about where each of us are in our individual journey and how we're working to improve ourselves and better ourselves, again, according to each and every one of our own free will. As we mentioned before, to reach perfection, we're all going to have to overcome all of life's trials, but that doesn't mean we're forced to do it. We have the free will to act as we wish. So while we might be put in situations that test us or put us in a position for us to maybe steal or cheat or hurt, we never have to do it. And that's an important distinction. Just because we need to go through the situation, that doesn't mean that we have to do it. The test is for us to learn from these types of situations that we get put in. But it doesn't mean that we must fail and that we must go through that cycle. If we're able to overcome that situation on the first try, then that's great. That's checked off our list and we can move on to the next trial. But if not, again, the supreme justice of God grants us multiple chances to try and try again. So we can think of a situation like stealing. Maybe all of us right now, we don't have the inclination to steal because we're not in that situation. But what if we were put in a situation where we and our family was hungry and we didn't have anything? Maybe then that would be a different situation and we would be tempted differently, and then we might fall into that challenge of stealing. And it's not to say, right, that we should steal it. There is something for us to learn in that situation. But if we do, that was a mistake and we're going to learn from it and we're going to keep doing that trial and we'll keep trying to improve. But if we learn from it and still we're in that situation and found another way, a just way to go around it without stealing, then we learned that lesson and we'll move on to a new trial. So it's important for us to think about this in the context that maybe I'm not stealing right now because I wasn't put in such a dire situation. But what if I was in that situation? What would I do? Have I really overcome that yet? Or am I just not in those shoes right now? So we never know what things we have overcome and what we haven't until these trials come our way. But no matter what it is, we never have to do the evil path or the wrong path. There is always another way that we can overcome those challenges. But it's okay if we make mistakes because that's why we have more chances. That's the justice of reincarnation that God is giving us. So if we have infinite tries and we have all of eternity, what is the motivation to do it now? Can't we all just take a break in this life and start again in the next incarnation? Well, we certainly could do that. But no one can escape the law of progress. So eventually, we're going to have to overcome those challenges that we're putting off. So why wait? We might as well start right now. If we work hard now, that's going to increase the speed of our advancement. And the key is that the more advanced we get, the less suffering we get. So why are we going to stay back here and rest in this suffering when we can work to improve ourselves so that we get rid of this suffering? So yes, it's comforting that we have multiple tries and endless time to overcome these obstacles, but the sooner we can accomplish our goals, the better. It's just like school. We can repeat grades over and over again. We can repeat classes over and over again, but why put ourselves through that if we can try and apply ourselves right now and get it done the first time or the second time? Ultimately, that decision is up to us. The key here is effort. It is solely up to us to take a hold of our life and make the changes and advancement and learn what we need. We can't wait for others to do it for us, and they can't do it for us. It has to come from us. True, genuine effort from us. God cannot be tricked, unfortunately. We won't be able to get away with a lack of effort or trying to play the game. For our progress and advancement to truly happen, we need to put in effort and dedicate ourselves 100%. As we mentioned before, if you learn to ride a bike, you never lose that. But if you pretend to learn to ride a bike, if you're faking that you know how to ride a bike, then you don't have any skill that's going to carry over with you because you never actually learned that. So it's not good enough to fake our way around it. We have to really learn it, really embrace that skill, perfect it. That's what's going to carry over with us. If we're just faking, there's no skill there that's going to carry over with us. Jesus left us a very important message when he said, "Blessed be the afflicted, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to them." Jesus did not mean the afflicted to be people who are suffering and doing nothing. He meant the people that suffer well. And that seems hard, right? What do you mean suffer well? Why do we have to suffer? These are things and challenges, obstacles that we have to go through. But are we suffering well? Are we doing the best that we can in those circumstances? Our burdens are always in proportion to our strength. So God does not give us anything that we cannot handle. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but God knows we have the potential to handle it. It knows that we can handle it. We might fall into traps, we might make mistakes, we might have to repeat it, but we can handle it. So know that when we're given an obstacle, when we're given a challenge, it's because we can handle it. We can. There's a reason for us to go through that, and there's something for us to learn, but we have the strength to overcome it. We need to put in the genuine effort and the deep faith in the divine plan of our lives. The Gospel according to Spiritism summarizes this message from Jesus, saying, "Blessed are the afflicted," may be translated in the following manner. Blessed are those who have occasion to prove their faith, firmness, perseverance, and submission to the will of God, because they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lack on earth. For after labor comes repose. So, such a powerful message for us to reflect on, thinking that Spiritism as a message of liberation is not that Spiritism is going to solve all our problems or take all our problems away from us, vanish our challenges and our obstacles, but Spiritism is going to allow us to change our perspective. As we reflect today, preparing for a new year and making new resolutions, let's keep these teachings in mind. Let's use Spiritism to liberate us from this earthly point of view that focuses on inequality and injustice that suffocates us. And instead, let's allow ourselves to open up to the perspective of life through the lens of immortality. The lens of immortality allows us to understand the justice and equity behind everything in our lives. While we might not know exactly why, we know that every effect has a cause, and there is a reason for us to be exactly where we are right now. We have infinite tries and all of eternity, but let's start right now. It's the perfect time for us to take charge of our lives and make a change for the better. The new year is a wonderful time for us to make new resolutions, make new goals. No matter where you are, who you are, your age, it's the time for us to learn something new, to try something new, and better ourselves step by step. It is never too late, and why wait when we can start right now? To end off today, I'd like to end with a message from the book Endearing Gems from Chico Xavier. And this message is titled Taking Positive Steps. When you find yourself on the verge of despair, quicken your steps towards inhibiting your pause. Pray to God for more light in order to overcome the shadows. Do something positive beyond the weakness that you may find within yourself. Read an enlightened message that may heighten your reasoning in the constructive variance of ideas. Be in contact with people whose conversation will enhance your inner spiritual self. Seek out an environment that would be conducive to receiving ennobling inspirations. Do someone a favor, particularly to someone who you have been avoiding for a long time. Go visit a friend who is ill, seeking a little comfort in those who are facing far greater difficulties than yours. Complete your prior unfulfilled task that may be causing these clouds of discouragement. Be assured that we are all marching forward, overcoming problems and struggles as we acquire experience. Life accepts our pauses for the restoration of our energy, but it does not accept any moments of inertia. Thank you all so much for being here today. Wishing you all such a happy new year, and hopefully you got some inspiration for your 2025 resolutions and goals so that we can keep improving ourselves and overcoming our challenges each and every day. Thank you all.